This is Leftist Lullaby, Episode 1, On the Way to Mama Julia's House. Three girls of about 14 years of age make their way down a gravel road. The crunch of small stones beneath the feet of two of the girls, and the steady thud of two wheelchair tires over the boardwalk. It's lush and very early in the morning, the sun just beginning to rise. Mist lines the road and recedes back into the wood line on either side. The girls walk calmly, chatting amongst each other. "So you didn't see it, but you heard it growl?" Brandi asks her friend. "Not a growl, it sounded like a bird chirping, actually." Cyrene responds to the question. "You think a big cat sounded like a bird?" Lorena asks from the boardwalk. "Well, to be fair, Tanku makes a lot of weird noises," Brandi says to Lorena about her fat, fluffy cat back home, probably still asleep on her pillow. "That's true." "Well, the sound is similar to that of a cougar, like when my dad and I went on that trip out west last spring. We got to see them on a night watch, but what I heard last night was different." The girls ponder for a moment, continuing on the trail. Brandi speaks up. "You're old enough now to go on a night watch. Maybe at the next youth council you can propose to join the older kids and see if you hear one again." "Oh yeah," Lorena teases. "Then you can hang out with your crush Delilah." Brandi and Lorena laugh, teasing Cyrene. "That would be too distracting for my research." Cyrene responds, water on a duck's back. The girls continue on down the road. They've done this many times, walking this path, struggling at first to get up at 6 a.m., sometimes even earlier. But they've found where they're headed to be one of the most rewarding experiences over the last year. In their community, children of 14 years of age get paired with an elder, sometimes grouped with an elder, like Lorena, Brandi, and Cyrene are to Mama Julia, to learn a practice or a skill, a trade, to contribute to the community that they live in and maybe the one they'll venture off to if they so decide to leave. The children get a choice. They get to try things out for a period of time, a month at least, 3 months, another check-in. And if they decide to move on, there's a closing with gratitude. But Brandi, Lorena, and Cyrene have come back time and time again to continue growing in Mama Julia's garden. They've all learned something about themselves as individuals and each other as friends. They've come up together in the Longleaf Pine Federation ever since Tinker Garden days, roaming the woods, learning how to play and create games of their own, Imagineering camps, and then on to more serious business, but always joy-centered business, as is the way in their federation. The girls have grown to love Mama Julia. She stays out a ways from the center communes, but that's because that's where she chose to live with her wife, who died a few years ago. The girls knew of Mama Julia's wife, but they didn't know her well or personally. She, like all the elders, was important in the community, and so is Mama Julia now. As they make their way down the path and over the boardwalk, the songbirds begin to sing, and the sky grows brighter. Okay, so one more thing, though. You know it sounded like a bird, but how do you know it just wasn't a bird? Don't we have nocturnal birds? Lorena speaks up again. "We do, but none that make that kind of high-pitched chirp. I could be missing a species, but..." Brandi jumps in. "I doubt it. You know every animal. You've always been really good at that." Lorena nods her head in agreement. "That reminds me, Darius said he needs some extra help harvesting honey and getting it further out to the neighbors around Mama Julia's house. He says he'll have it at the end of this week. Maybe we can start carrying some on our trips in the mornings." "Yeah, I can put some in the bottom of my chair." Cyrene shuffles her backpack. "Plenty of space in here." The girls nod their heads at each other. They're constantly making these kinds of plans. Most of the children in the Longleaf Pine Federation are extremely responsible and happy to contribute to different missions across the community. There's always someone who could use an extra pair of hands but is never overworked. And that's something they love about where they live. Sharing their time, their backpack space, and their means to get to places is nothing far from natural. For nearly a century, this is how the Federation has worked. People sharing, people communicating their needs, and people stepping up when they're able. The girls know that there will be plenty of honey for them in this transport, and that's not why they want to transport the honey. They also know that these elders who live on the outskirts of the community don't live on the outskirts of community because they're old or pushed out, but because that's part of the history of the Federation, how it was formed, how the community came together, and how the community has shifted. Cyrene gets an idea. I could actually ask Mr. Marlowe about the chirping. Maybe, yeah, if I record it, I can bring it to him and he can tell me what he thinks. He's an ornithologist. Anyway, enough about the mystery sound for now. How are you two doing? Cyrene checks in with her friends. Lorena and Brandi share an exchange. Who's going to go first? Brandi says, well, I've been thinking about traveling with my older brother towards the end of the month. He wants to check out new communes to visit. Maybe to move or find a date or something, I don't know. There's a tone in her voice. The girls know she'll miss her brother. That's exciting, Lorena speaks up. It'll be cool for you to see new places. I bet you'll learn a lot of cool dances. Brandi loves dancing. She's great at it, and people love to watch her dance because she's so energetic and acrobatic. Yeah, I wonder, which way will you go? North, south, east, west? Where is he thinking? Well, my mom's not set on me traveling with him. She's wondering if either she or Charisse will go with us. But I think we could travel on our own. Everything's really safe. At least on this side. He doesn't want to go too far. I don't know where he wants to start. Maybe further south, or maybe in the mountains. He does like the snow. The girls are quiet for a moment, letting Brandi soak in her feelings, making room, and not trying too hard to change how she feels about it or be too overly positive. When does he want to leave by? Cyrene asks, kicking a pebble ahead of her. Well, I think the fall, so that if he does go to the mountains, he's not trying to get set up in the middle of winter or something. What about you, Lorena? Brandi moves on. I'm good. Tonku is good. Thank you for asking about my beloved cat. And my workshop is almost complete. Oh yeah, your workshop on the history of youth creating cosmology. What a scholar. Cyrene and Brandi hype up their friend. I'm really excited about it. And honestly, I'm gonna miss your brother too, Brandi. He's been really helpful in just keeping track with all my notes. He's so organized, it's scary. The Longleaf Pine Federation experienced many years of attempts to negotiate and coexist with different thoughts and religions and beliefs. And then there came a time where people said, for our culture to be truly liberated, we can start questioning and considering something else together. In the old world that the people revolutionized away from, the justification and explanation for conquest and colonialism was religious freedom. No one wanted to repeat. But at the same time, and in this land, known long ago as the Bible Belt, many people clung to beliefs, and conflicts arose from that. Struggles arose from that. Lorena was bringing something to contribute to the conversation that young people actually had a lot to say and add to the spiritual leadership of any community. She was proud of her work, and she was excited to share. Well, I'll definitely be there, Brandi said. Will there be food? Do I need to bring something? I think I might invite them to make it a potluck. That could be fun. We should definitely talk about it. And it's on the full moon. It's on the night of the full moon. The Longleaf Pine Federation is a lunar society following the phases of the moon to track timing, make important dates, celebrate, rest, mourn, grieve, and enjoy life. Many people spent most of their daytime either in leisure or working on small projects. Nighttime was dedicated to sometimes more serious matters like community gatherings, decision-making processes, community education. This relationship to the nighttime also made room for more play, where little kids were allowed to run wild playing, and older people of the community would like to sneak off and have fun rendezvous under the stars. Elders and young people alike tried their hand at storytelling over an open fire. Cyrene had even set up a dedicated space to observe nocturnal animals in the area, venturing further and further out as she got older. And the beautiful thing about the Longleaf Pine Federation, even across the dozens of communities and communes, was this safety, because people agreed that nighttime was also for play, for communication, for community, for roaming. Children, elders, women, disabled people, trans people, all enjoyed the night in safety, just like they did the early morning and the middle of the day. There was an agreement and an understanding and a knowing of each other because of the contribution to surviving and thriving. The girls turn a bend on the road. They're almost there. They're passing over the little creek where further back they can see the water mill of Old Man Jeb's house, where he and his wife power their home with the running water of the creek and grow mushrooms on substrate bags of burlap, old coffee bags shipped up from the sailors east on the coast from Caribbean island, or grown on substrate blocks of old straw from the wheat farms of houses further down the road and nearby. The mushroom substrate bags kept the creek clean, even though pollution in the water hadn't been an issue for quite some time, and provided delicious oyster mushrooms, who spread their spores around and could now be foraged so abundantly in the woodland areas. You know what I'm thinking about, guys? Lorena says to her friends as she moves over the creek on the boardwalk. Honey barbecue oyster mushroom skewers. Ooh, yes, with the dandelion greens from Mama Julia's. Brandi smiles, nodding her head. Oh, and peppers will be coming out soon, too. Guys, we gotta do it. We gotta do it. We could stay later next week and do a whole little cookout in her yard. Yeah, I think she'd like that. Plus, I've been wanting to ask her. Lorena pauses. What? Cyrene says. I've been wanting to ask her about her wife. Oh. Brandi and Cyrene nod. The girls were curious too. Mama Julia's wife was a legend in the community, and as mentioned before, they were too young to know her. But growing to know Mama Julia left them with so many questions. She's 87 years old, has traveled around, and experienced some of the most tumultuous times in the Longleaf Pines Federation's history. What did she see, and what was her wife like? They loved learning about women of the past. Or Mama Julia was still here, but women who lived in the past. All they've known is the commune at this point, the Federation at this point, and of course there's much to learn, and other places in the continent have chosen very different ways of existing. Well, what do you want to ask her? Brandi asked Lorena, now kicking her own pebble up the road. I don't know for sure. What was she like? Her pictures on the wall, she's so beautiful and she looks really cool, you know? Cyrene smiles. She does. And it seemed like she really had a love of fish and aquatic life. That picture with her on the boat? Yeah, that's the best one. Lorena and Cyrene gush over this woman. Who was she? Well, I think definitely having a meal might make it easy for her to talk about. She seems like she's still kind of reserved about it. I bet she really misses her. The girls get a little more somber at Brandi's thoughtful mention. Maybe we can do some kind of ritual around remembering her. I'm sure Mama Julia has her own, but maybe she'd like to share her with more people. The girls nod in agreement. They feel confident, they're planning their recipes, and they're just at the juncture where the pathway to Mama Julia's house meets the road. Thank you so much for listening. That was On the Way to Mama Julia's House, read by Seek. I hope you enjoyed meeting our characters, and we'll see you next week for their next adventure. Good night.